So welcome everyone that's on the call. We're going to wait a few minutes until we kick this off. In general, this is one of our Liquidware Unplugged sessions. If you've not been on one of these sessions before, just a little bit about how it works. We have a panel of speakers. There's really no slides to this now. Whether someone decides they want to show a little something here or there, we might jump to that at some point in time. But this is a free-flowing kind of conversation. We encourage you guys to be involved with this discussion. And so ask any questions or comments. Until we get things started here in the next few minutes, we have a rather large registration group pending for this. So we're going to give it some time for people to jump off their last calls and find the link to log in and kind of go through that before we get started. But again, this is kind of a free-flowing conversation. Jason Smith, our moderator, is going to bring us through today's session. So, Jason, while we're waiting, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks. These Liquidware Unplugged events are fun. We'd like to thank Remo3 for participating with us. We'll do formal introductions in just a moment, but we have with us, I'll briefly introduce the founder of Remo3, Samit, and then Michael Rosen, who heads up alliances from Remo3. And we have our founder, David Bieneman, and we have Jack Smith, our subject matter expert for FlexApp. And we'll talk about app strategy and the new year in just a moment. But the way these, as Ray alluded to, the way these Liquidware Unplugged start, we allow people a few extra minutes to join and you get to know us a little bit. So before we went live, we were talking about the weather a bit. We were talking about some vitamin supplements to stay well and healthy. And, one of the things I was thinking about was it's a new year, and we always love to hand out things at trade shows that are useful. Speaking about the weather, one of the most useful things I received in the last few months was Microsoft Ignite. We were up there and the first snowstorm of the season blew in, and Michael Rosen may have his within arm's reach. I think he had it on yesterday, a beanie that had, maybe he doesn't, so put him on the spot. But Remo3 gave us a beanie, and I put it to use like right away.
You did.
Yep.
You really did.
I even did a social media post with it. So that was fun. And we did some of our own too. I don't have the Remo3 one with us, but we got some Liquidware ones there. So, give us a shout out there in the comments. What's one of the most useful things you might have received? And it was timely, wasn't it? Because that snowstorm blew in.
That's just it was a light dusting, Jason. That's not a snowstorm.
That was a blizzard by Alpharetta, Georgia standards.
Anything under 8 inches is just called a dusting in Chicago. Yeah. We don't call that a snowstorm.
Right.
It's pretty
Floating
funny.
to an inch, right?
It's funny because like when we talk about stuff, and I've had this probably since my App DNA days, this has been, you can see it's been through the ringer, right? Like the multi-purpose mouse pad plus screen wipe.
That's
and
great.
My Liquidware swag. I don't keep a lot of swag, but this is definitely one of my favorites. It comes with me in my backpack wherever I go. Wipe the screen, doubles as your mouse pad. That is definitely one of my, and those battery packs are always a good one too, like the 10,000 milliamp ones that you can have the external charge, and those tend to be
those are awesome
favorites. Yeah.
One of my other favorites is the cord
chimed in and
keeper.
said the external battery pack was great.
Yeah, right.
You really appreciate them, right? When you've flown in, you couldn't charge your phone, you're in an Uber and you're about to die. Your phone's about to die before you get to the hotel is what tends to happen to me.
Here's a great one. Thomas said small tubes of laundry stain remover.
What do you? Oh, look at Michael! Look at that throwback.
Throwing it way back.
That's my favorite piece of swag.
Wow. That's the only thing I was ever technically certified for as a marketing guy was Windows NT. What was the favorite one from the audience, Ray?
Someone said small tubes of laundry stain remover. That would come in handy.
Ooh.
Yeah, Tide Sticks. Back scratcher. I got one of those. I use that.
That's a nice one. We love these ideas because a lot of these shows have gone to green. Make sure you keep it green or keep it good because they don't want just something scrap filling the earth with with waste, and I understand that, but the useful ones is like, you know, the invaluable things that you really loved that you received have been. Some of the other things we gave away is we gave away a phone mat one time that kept your phone from sliding all over your car. I think those had some shelf life, and lately we had some nice luggage tags that had Liquidware embossed on them.
Ooh,
I have
luggage
those.
bags. That's a
Yeah,
good one. That's a good one, Jason.
I have a few with me. Because we're going to carry these out to the Gartner show.
Someone
But
said
yeah,
bring
they
on the socks, so we normally have those at our show. So stop by next time you see us.
I have to save you guys one of those.
That's a nice one. It's got, I mean, it is properly, that's quality swag.
Yeah, it's made from the finest pleather in the world, I think. It's
yeah.
Here's another good one from Microsoft. It's a miniature puck.
Oh, I've got one upstairs. Microsoft reminded me, and we use this thing like every week. It's one of these little wooden massagers, and you know, to relieve your I got it from Microsoft Exchange. It says Microsoft Exchange 2000 on it.
That's a while back.
I had to fix it last week. I had to take some wood glue and put it back together, and because one of the pegs had fallen out.
Time for a new one.
It's a real wooden one, so it's neat looking with the real wood color and stuff. I'm surprised the logo's held up. We're getting closer to the start, and we'll start in a couple of minutes. So Liquidware Unplugged, you get to know us a little bit. You get to know some of the things we think about in our spare time. So you're hearing some of that chat as we come forward to, in a couple of minutes, we'll make formal introductions again. And thank you for joining us. This is a very hot topic on a new year and a new app strategy. And we'll speak about that with our friends at Remo 3 and here at Liquidware with our solution FlexApp. But any other comments there from the audience, Ray?
No, someone mentioned the socks, which I already mentioned. So I think
socks was a fun one at the Digital Workplace Summit last year. They did Gartner does the Magic Quadrant, and we're happy we were featured in the first ever DEX Magic Quadrant. Came out a few months ago. Stratosphere and Command Controller in there, and so we were very pleased to be showcased in that. But they do a Magic Quadrant on everything that has a certain value in the market space, and someone at the show, one of the analysts actually laid out on his. We were at the Gaylord at the show. He laid out on his hotel bed and used some painter's tape and did a Magic Quadrant for the favorite socks that he had received at the conference, and he laid them in each quadrant, as whether they were niche players or they were emerging or they were leaders, and it got a lot of eyeballs on it last year. So socks have become a very popular thing. We've done three different styles.
I think like these giveaways and these swag, it's an important piece now that trade shows are kind of coming back to. Like this doesn't exactly qualify as swag, but I've got this little water bottle or insulated cup, right? But it was for a paddle tournament that I entered, platform tennis, which you play in the cold in Chicago. And it also has a Bluetooth speaker at the bottom and a power bank. So not only is it keeping my tea warm, it's extra great because as soon as I turn it on, the thing that it comes out with is ready to vibe. And I'm like, that's the types of vibes I need in my life.
I like that. That's
powering up. Vibe pairing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's these are the kind of fun.
Ready to vibe.
Ready to vibe. I just love that. Ready to vibe. It sets the mood.
Vibe.
That's funny.
Powering down.
I was even though you told me that it was going to say that, I was like, who has joined our panel? I hear a different voice. Is someone off mute? That's a funny thing. So that was a great fun getting to know us a little bit in the personal side of us and just some of our thoughts. Whether or not they're really relevant to the industry, I think is just a lot of fun to get to know people in an unplugged format. And so Liquidware Unplugged was the first one we did was in 2020 when we knew that the real shows weren't going to happen in person for a while, and now those have come back. as Samit was saying. And today's topic and panel discussion, and it's all live. There's no PowerPoint, boring PowerPoint after boring PowerPoint, which PowerPoint does have its place to teach people. And we might share a slide or two today. You could go any direction. But the topic at hand is it's a new year and a new app strategy. And I wrote a piece in VM blog a month ago talking about trends for the year ahead, and really the year of app modernization, I think, is upon us. And I say that not out of a self-preserving interest, but it is a very trendy thing. A lot of things are going on in the industry, and we'll talk about some of those. But the end of life for App V, it was actually given a slightly extended life with only part of the technology going into life now, and we can talk about that. And then just desktop transformation and happening as a whole. So new year, new app strategy. Let's introduce the panel. Ray, let's go back to you and start with Ray Swanson, our marketing director at Liquidware.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. I'm Ray Swanson, the marketing director at Liquidware. I could just end it there, but I'm going to be our host today. Again, real quick, before we pass it off to everyone else, if you have any questions, we encourage your participation. So please give us your comments, your feedback via the chat or the Q&A, and I'll do our best to monitor that and make sure we get that going. One last bit of housekeeping for me is we are recording the session. So while we do want you to stay on and participate with us live, if you do have to log off, or maybe a colleague or someone else couldn't make it today, we will send out a link to that recording after the event later on today. So moving on along, Jason, we'll go back to you, and then carry around.
I've already given everybody an earful, but I lead our marketing over here at Liquidware, and I'm pleased to be with us today. I'll also serve as our panel moderator. Jack, I'm going to go in the order I see on my screen. Jack?
Jack Smith. I'm a solutions architect and SME in FlexApp and Profile Unity.
SME, subject matter expert. Thanks for joining us. David Bieneman.
Hey, I'm David Bieneman. I'm CEO of Liquidware, and we're a digital workspace management solutions company. We are happy to be here today, talk about application lifecycle management with Remo 3.
Thanks. Samit Halvadia.
Yeah, I probably identify first and foremost as an app nerd, but secondly, I also happen to be co-founder of Remo 3 and chief technology officer, and definitely spent the last 20 years of my career in a variety of different roles. Back to App DNA, focused on app testing, Citrix, app delivery, even FlexEra, Install Shield, Admin Studio packaging. So it's the whole kit and caboodle as it pertains to app lifecycle management. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the trends of where we're going and kind of where we come from, because those lessons learned are quite important in shaping some of the future direction.
That's great. Thanks for joining us. And Michael Rosen.
Thanks. I'm Michael Rosen. I am the SVP of Remo 3, and I focus on the alliances for the company. In my prior role, I was running very large global transformations to the Windows platform, all versions, and virtualization, publishing, and things of that nature. So a lot of field experience, and looking to bring that to the call, and also talk about Remo 3 as needed.
Great. Thanks for joining us again. New year, new app strategy, because we believe this is the year of app modernization. And I'm going to call on the founders here, the CEOs, and to talk about some of the trends that they're seeing, because we see a lot of changes happen in the industry. There's a lot of things that have happened even in the last couple of years, with some of the platforms and the way that the ownership of those had changed. We think about some of the leaders being Citrix and Microsoft, VMware now, Omnissa being the spinoff there, and the way that there's other emerging platforms. We've seen Vision coming on, we've seen WorkSpot coming on, we've seen Porto coming on, and a lot of organizations are making at least looking around to see if they would like to see if they want to make a change, whether for technology reasons or for pricing reasons, a variety of things. At the same time, we've got a lot of things going on in the app space. I already mentioned App V to a degree. You've got MSIX that's come up in recent years. You've got emerging technologies like FlexApp that are starting to come on strong to attach applications. So with some of that groundwork laid, I want to ask David Bieneman for Liquidware, and what are some of the changes that we're seeing in the industry?
Well, we see a lot of SCCM to Intune happening right now. A lot of investigation on Intune. A lot of questions on, is there a different way I can manage these applications? A different way I can serve these desktop sessions out? We had answers for that, of course. So we see a lot of hybrid happening. Edge computing being something that people are moving to, where they're putting workload at the edge for some cases. Of course, we see people moving from some platforms today that they've been using for many years over to AVD, or that's obviously been a big push for probably the last 12 months. So yeah, those are some of the changes that we see. I mean, there's so many more. So we have 4 products wide. So
right, Samit.
Yeah, I think the trends are quite it's quite broad, to David's point, right? When you start thinking about like trying to distill it down to why people are adopting different technologies or exploring different technologies for the first time since, I don't know, 1989, right? And the RDS, RDSH, all of the things, RDP, traditional published applications. What we've kind of started seeing, especially at Remo with some of our larger customers, is that this is the first time that there's a convergence happening in my professional career, right? We've historically had 2 distinct groups of system administrators, right? You have your endpoint administrators, which have been focused on SCCM, Intune, physical endpoints. And then you've had your VDI administrators that really help you focus on things like Citrix, Omnissa, and some of these new emerging technologies that are more hybrid, more cloud-based co-managed, as opposed to necessarily just fully on-prem. But what Microsoft has done over the last, let's say since 2018, is they've started converging the two. And for the first time, I'm starting to see sysadmins that were traditionally just SCCM taking on things like Cloud VDI with AVD. We're starting to see that skill set broaden across traditional administration, and it's not just about the physical endpoint. So when you start thinking about the way that Microsoft has positioned themselves, leveraging Intune as the management plane of choice, and then ultimately allowing Cloud PC with Windows 365, allowing Cloud VDI with AVD, and allowing physical endpoints being managed through that same kind of infrastructure and management plane. You're starting to see the convergence of these VDI worlds that were 2 separate silos of VDI being in one side and endpoints being in the other, and you're starting to see them come together. And I think cloud-based DaaS and co-manage and hybrid are going to be a big part of that overall story. So because you have 2 distinct spaces converging, you're now in a period of massive exploration. I don't want to say uncertainty, because that has a negative connotation, but it's a period of exploration where people are exploring new technologies for the first time in 20 years to do things a bit differently than they historically have. And it's very exciting to be one of the partners in that ecosystem. And more importantly, it's very exciting to see people actually change the way that they're doing things to keep up with the pace of technology. And that hasn't always necessarily been the case. So for me, the thing that's most exciting is we're entering an age of exploration as it pertains to endpoint management, because endpoint management is no longer just the physical box.
Yep. That's great. And so we're seeing a lot of the same things. Michael Rosen, you joined Remo 3 from many years of experience, as we saw from your Windows NT paraphernalia, but also from Avanade. So what were some of the things that you might have been seeing at Avanade, or some of the things you were seeing as changes in the industry recently, and things that you're seeing going forward?
Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you.
A lot of it has been precipitated by the life cycle of the platforms from Microsoft. And, some of the things didn't really exist 10 years ago or 12 years ago when Windows 10 was kind of developed and released. So Microsoft drives a lot of these waves as people to look to do these larger transformational programs, and where System Center might have been prevalent third-party products. Now with Intune, Windows 11, plus a lot of other technologies like Windows Hello inside of the platform, zero trust security. A lot of companies are looking to combine different projects and look at different alternatives. to get off of the wheel and these ever-changing evergreen life cycles and try to make things easier, modern management. So people looking to make these moves are always looking to make it easier and evaluating whatever their legacy platforms are and how to change to that. So like was discussed around, people either going to AVD or looking for an upgrade cycle from the virtualization platform, whether it's Windows 10 or legacy to Windows 11, and now with Cloud PC, Windows 365, and trying to make that seamless for the end users, whether it's hybrid work from home, back to the office or not, making that user experience for collaboration a lot easier, not only for the users, but also for the administrators and the cost to run those platforms. So, every time there's one of these life cycles, like the end of Windows 10 in October of 2025, there's an impetus for a lot of clients to explore whatever they're going to do for addressing that, for the lack of support or paying extended support from Microsoft, to reevaluate what the future platform will do. And that drives everything that was just discussed about what you're going to evaluate, what you're going to do, and change different platforms.
Yeah. Well, when you say it like that, October 2025, and we're in 2025, right? And it's one of the first times I've heard people say it out loud while you're in that year, and you start to look in your refrigerator and you see things that have a longer shelf life on the expiration date than Windows does. You start to think maybe I ought to do something about, Windows about to expire, right? Jack Smith, notes from the field. Most importantly, probably, what are you seeing right out there in the field?
A lot of migrations lately. A lot of Windows 10 to 11, or having that conversation of what that's going to look like, because people are in that mad rush. And a lot of moves to AVD, or looking for alternatives from the main players. We'll call them the legacy players, I guess, of Citrix and Omnissa. So people are looking for alternatives. Whether they go to those alternatives is a matter of probably timing and budget. But we are seeing that in some extreme cases, we're seeing people just go right back to physical, which we sold a deal last year literally on they are going back to physical. So we were able to manage that and have that conversation around FlexApps in the physical workstations, as well as their current VDI type environment. So it really is a lot of everything. And I think that the ability to not be locked into a specific vendor or distribution method or broker is a really nice component, because we have the toys and we're able to work across everything.
That's great. Great words there about AVD and things coming on strong there. We're going to turn the discussion more pertinently to app modernization, and Samit, I'm going to call on you because you guys touch upon most of those technologies there that people are looking at or adopting or moving away from in some cases. And so we know App V end of life it was end of life, and then it's got an extension back in November when Microsoft announced that only the App V server would be end of life, and the sequencer and the client would stay around for the foreseeable future. And they made it pretty clear through some blogs that it was in maintenance mode with security updates, or at least that's the way we and most people interpreted it. If you're using it now, you'll still have that as a tool, but if you want any innovation, if you want anything that's going to open it up to more candidates for being able to bring in apps without modifying base images, then you're probably out of luck. So you can continue to use it for certain use cases. And we at Liquidware, we believe some of those, are still ideal. If you want full isolation and things like that, you could still look to App V, and you've got some support there. Our own solution, Profile Unity, fills the gap of being able to deploy App V packages, because on the server side, if that's end of life, we're able to deploy it. There's only a couple of other options out there. One technology from Microsoft that they have spent time and putting more money into is in Azure, but it's specifically for AVD, and it's the App Attach program. And there was some announcements made also in November of some select partners being able to be supported in there. We worked with Microsoft from Liquidware so they could integrate hooks from our FlexApp, our full FlexApp solution, to be able to deploy those FlexApps within the Azure control plane. So a lot of things happened in the fourth quarter of last year. You know, the extension of the AppV sequencer and the client, even though the server side's going to be end of life and there's not going to be innovation there. But you know, it also had in putting things in perspective, probably MSIX. If you read the tea leaves, right, that MSIX may not be the end all be all, and it sort of now seems to be that Microsoft is supporting many other technologies, and MSIX has its place, is the way we feel here at Liquidware. So Samit, with you being with Remo 3 and your long-standing history with AppDNA and other app technologies there in the industry, what are you seeing for app modernization trends?
Yeah, app modernization trends are an interesting one because you said it, you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Each technology and each strategy and each enterprise is unique in their use cases for delivering applications, right? There are certain themes that span across most app delivery strategy. If you think about the days back when SoftGrid was first acquired by Microsoft, or Thinstall was first acquired by VMware at the time, or any of those types of technologies, it was kind of a foot race around isolation because with MSIs, you know, there's too many interdependencies, and isolation was seen as the panacea of app compatibility and application delivery, right? If it can't talk to anything else, it can't break anything else. But the reality is, while AppV has continued to innovate until these announcements that you're kind of referring to, it's gotten to the point where it's no longer fit for purpose because isolation is no longer the goal, right? Now, when you're starting to deal with the concepts of micro apps and workflows that require multiple outputs from multiple applications to achieve an outcome, it's not so much about isolation. What it's really about is it's about kind of supporting the business and the outcome that they're looking to achieve. And the old school way of doing it with gold standard images, being able to do it with isolation, local installation, those were the only options that you really had. Now, with App Attach and with FlexApp 1, with Omnissa, with App Volumes, a lot of what people are looking to do is they want to move away from the traditional isolation or local installation model and say, can we do dynamic assembly of my workspaces, right? And that's a very different, nuanced kind of approach where being able to attach it just in time, as and when you need it, layering, whatever you want to call it, whatever the terminology you use, is the ultimate outcome that a lot of modern folks are looking for around their Windows experience, which is, can I just attach a VHD when I need that particular application? Can I, they're looking for dynamic assembly. They're looking for portability across multiple destinations, right? That's really, really important. And FlexApp 1 is really great at that, where you're able to take it from my Citrix environment, and then I can put it inside of an AVD environment, but I could also take that same application, assuming it's validated, and then run it inside of my physical endpoint as well, right? And so when you start thinking about dynamic assembly, you start thinking about portability, and you start thinking about security as the three pillars that are driving a lot of these application strategies. What people need to find out is, where am I today, right? What is the current state of my application estate so that I can start figuring out what are the right technologies for me that will allow me to achieve these three pillars, pillars of dynamic assembly, of security, and of portability. And that's where we start seeing a lot of folks in that exploratory phase, where sometimes it will be heterogeneous, right? Sometimes it'll be a combination of FlexApp 1 or FlexApp Core, and it'll be a combination of locally installed. It'll be a little bit of AppV. It'll be a little bit of Omnissa, thin app, right? For the true isolated, it's okay. And that's the thing that people have to realize. It's okay to have heterogeneity because it's based on what your users need. But the theme that I've seen around app modernization is that there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all strategy for all of them. But what does kind of come across as far as themes are those three that I outlined: dynamic assembly, security, and portability. And if
That's
you
great.
can achieve those things with your application delivery and management strategy, you're in the top 1%, 1.5% of enterprises out there.
Yep. That area of app strategy, and that's the way I wanted to head. And two, in our conversation was we both approach it slightly different, but in a really good way, because you can use both of us together. David, would you like to speak to that and add to what Samit was saying?
Absolutely. We we have the 4 products wide, as you know. We consolidate those into one suite, right? And so part of that suite, and really our claim to initial fame, right, and how we started was with our Stratosphere UX product, which is a product that was used for many years for assessment to move you to a VDI implementation or move you to whatever implementation you wanted to go to. And during that process, you would do a discovery and you would learn about all the applications that your organization has in use, which is a little bit different than what you might think you've deployed. And because you might have more in use than you've deployed, and you may have less in use than you've deployed. And so when you want to approach an app modernization project, or you want to move from one platform to another, gathering that intel is definitely key, so that you can gather those applications and then move them to Remo 3, let's say, and go through your process of packaging or whatever the case may be, automated, and not have to guess and go around and do all the manual legwork. So we've been doing that for a long time. This is our 15th year. We'll be in 16th year in just a couple months here, and basically, that's an old tried and true for us. So
So the app strategy piece, and we've got a couple questions from the audience that are directly in line with this. So you need to think about deployment too. So one of the most recent questions that we just had pop in. So as part of your app strategy, I think I believe that both companies would say you need to think about flexibility in here, because we try to meet customers where they are. How do you deploy these? And so as for Liquidware, that's why we give you a couple options. With FlexApp, you'll have the most power with our console and being able to do application rights management and a lot of things. But this is why one of the key reasons we introduced FlexApp 1, because it's compatible with a variety of ways of deploying applications, including Microsoft Intune, VMware Workspace ONE, the Avante DSCM solution, and it can any way that you actually can deploy software today. It's very capable of being an all-inclusive package for that you push out to the endpoint. It has everything needed to double-click and launch. That's where it gets everything's in one package. That's why it's called FlexApp 1.
And we give you the ability to manage that with Profile Unity. We give you the ability to push those apps out via FlexApp 1, via FlexApp Core, via ThinApp, via AppV, via MSIX. We can push all those applications out and then push the persona out with it, and then help you create that strategy, whether it's on physical, virtual cloud, DAS, shifting to AVD, whatever the case may be, leveraging app attach, direct integration there, even direct integration with Citrix DAS and Web Studio and on-prem versions. So we definitely have that solution to help you, migrate to whichever platform you want there, and obviously use those deployment methodologies, or we can deploy directly to an endpoint on our own without anybody going the persona directly to a blob and the apps from a blob and an endpoint in Starbucks. So
right. So flexibility is key there. Yeah, we don't want to be a closed ecosystem and make you have to do it one specific way, because what's right for one organization is not going to be the same for the next. Samit, is that you guys have some hooks in the Intune as well, right?
Exactly, and it's 100% right? Like, this is the same methodology. We've been working together since the App DNA days, and I think actually probably even during the Flexera Install Shield days, right? Like, what we have to think about as we look at the customer journeys is they will all be unique, because they all have different use cases, they all have different requirements, which some are highly regulated. You have to worry about compliance, you have to worry about a bunch of other things. But the thing that tends to be pretty common across the enterprise is that there is a huge amount of legacy debt, tech debt, associated with Config Manager, right? And everyone has used SCCM. So, for us, we want to be able to take you on that journey from wherever you're starting, whether it's a file share that's serving Citrix published apps, or whether it's taking all your legacy debt that you have sitting in Config Manager and giving you a data-driven, automation-driven option to say, what's the right destination for me? You have the destination in mind. We'll give you the data to figure out, is it right as a Flex app? Is it right as a local install? Should I put it as a Win32 wrapped Intune Win, sitting up in Intune? I ultimately don't care where you bring it to us from or where you deploy it to. What I care about is that I give you the data to know that you have that confidence to go from where you are today to at least where you want to be now, as well as where you want to be in the future. So for us, working with management planes like Citrix, like VMware, Omnissa, Workspace ONE, Horizon, SCCM, Intune, it's really important to be able to truly represent kind of what the field requirements are. And Jack will know this better than anyone, right? Some people are like, hey, I still use packages and programs. I'm like, seriously? That hasn't been touched since 2012, but it's there, and they still need those applications, right, and they still need to move to Intune, or they still need to be used inside the business, but that's okay, right? Like, as long as we're able to get access to that, we want to take that automation and provide that data for you so that you can make that decision, right? So for us, it's kind of the same agnostic view that you guys take, which is really around the fact that give us your debt, we'll tell you the art of the possible. You choose the journey that's right.
Yeah. So if I want to continue on with you, Samit, because I want to transition directly how we're working together, how we've announced, within the last couple of years, we were working together, how we're working together today, and some of the latest ways that we're working together that I think we haven't really publicly said, some of the exciting news that we had about FlexApp Core and some of those things that we're working with. But keep it in mind that you guys support AppV, you support MSIX, and there's another third party in there too as well that you support that's well known, but FlexApp as well. Keep it in mind that you're able to help the customer do that like assessment, which technology to use and how you can get your hands on and how you can test validate. Can you describe how we're working together, how Remo 3 and FlexApp works together, and keeping the big picture in mind for App Strategy?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an important thing, right? I mean, for those of you that aren't familiar with Remo 3, if I were to simplify what we do, we are your app orchestration and navigation kind of journey where we're the captain of your ship, where our automations are focused on those things that I introduced about myself earlier, right? Whether you need to convert a package to a modern format, whether you need to assess whether a package can work, right? That's my old admin studio hat. It's also my old AppDNA hat. Will it work on my new desired platform? It's my Citrix hat of can I deliver it to the actual endpoints? And now with Remo 3, we've built the entirety of that. Can I deploy my applications to where I want to go? So for us, our partnership is really focused on being able to modernize applications at scale and then ultimately deliver them to a modern Windows experience. Because it goes back to what Michael was talking about. Using things like Windows Hello, using things like Copilot requires you to have a modern Windows experience. And the next generation of the workforce is not looking for a 28-day requisition process to request a new piece of software, then get bids for RFP. No, they just expect to be able to go into a corporate store, click on it, get their license, and have it sitting on their machine within 5 minutes, right? And the reality is that is the direction of travel for a lot of folks, and that's what our partnership has been built on. It's been built on taking a lot of that legacy debt that we have inside of Config Manager, assessing whether or not it can move to a modern management plane, but in the process, taking advantage of great technology like FlexApp One and FlexApp Core, where we've seen a hugely successful compatibility rate, whether you're moving from a Server 2012 instance to a Windows 11 sitting on AVD and multi-session, no problem, right? We have the ability to give you the data to say, yes, this is a good candidate for FlexApp One or FlexApp Core, but ultimately working with you guys enables us to take a lot of that legacy debt and extend the life of these, the longevity of these critical applications that are going to be served to the users for the next 10 years, or probably some of them long after we're gone, right? You start thinking about that and being able to take those applications, convert them to FlexApp One, tell you it's a good candidate, or FlexApp Core, and then putting it inside of a private WPM repo so that these enterprises can have a self-service experience that's not only quick and timely around change, but it's also validated. It's also completely green lit by Remo 3's automation to say, yes, this is safe to change. yes, this is not going to impact my user productivity. So the big picture that I kind of think about when we think about Liquidware and the Remo 3 partnership as it pertains to app delivery, it's around taking debt, extending the longevity, taking advantage of new technologies like FlexApp One, and making it accessible to the masses. Now, if you take it one step beyond that, part of the value proposition that you guys are going to continue bringing is, are my users using it the right way in production? Is my digital experience what it needs to be? Are there issues with the desktop workspace management processes that we have in place today? And we're starting to work with you on some of the compliance stories around, am I meeting my SLAs? Is my hardware still good? Can I move to Windows 11? Is my hardware ready? Are my apps ready? Is my OS build secure enough? And being able to start answering these questions, especially as people put on their kind of explorer hat for the first time in 15 years, we want to give them that data-driven approach as opposed to farming it out to 5 different outsourcers that come with 5 different strategies and 5 different prices.
That's awesome. Thanks. A lot of what you spoke to, Jack, I was wondering if you maybe could demo some of that out. Liquidware Unplugged is unplugged. So calling on Jack, we'll see if he's got a demo environment ready, and maybe he can show some of this flow.
He just threw you. He threw you to the wolves just like that.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
We didn't hand out the David. We didn't hand out the subject matter expert title lightly, did we? You got to move on your feet.
Yeah, I had to get the questions ahead of time. So. So we're actually in the Remo interface here.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I do have a FlexApp One type package, and you can kind of see the flow is pretty simplistic when it comes to going from just a simple application import all the way to a FlexApp package here. And of course, I can then download that package into a zip file, and it has our core FlexApp functions as well as a FlexApp One executable within it. So really the flow, and it's going to be kind of hard to show on this demo here, but the flow is pretty simplistic when it comes to onboarding an application. And in this case, it would just be something as simple as, create manual, or give details, or here's the installation path, or here's the files to upload. Now, the nice part with this whole flow is that it's going to do a bunch of different things with this package. It's going to do tests. It's going to make sure that the applications are in fact validated. It's going to look at all of the different parts and pieces of this application so that it will understand, if I can find it from the main dashboard here, it will understand what is happening. So you go, import it, and it does, AV scan and all sorts of fun stuff to find out what's going on. And then it goes into, I'm going to install it and see what that looks like. Then it's going to go and say, all right, well, this package has been validated. It is ready. This is what the install looks like. And then it's a matter of going into modernize, choosing a FlexApp One option, and then choosing that package, or that, what they called it, onboard application that can be then converted over to a FlexApp One. So then it spins up another workstation with FlexApp One, or with our FlexApp capture components, captures all those pieces. And then at the end, it will also do another validation. So I can say, all right, yeah, that worked in Windows 10. Weirdly, this didn't work on AVD, but if I don't know what the error is, I'm like, oh, why did that fail? Well, I can look at the console output and go, oh, my
your VM wasn't beefy.
My VM, yeah, I didn't have a proper quota limit. So it isn't that the application failed so much as I wasn't able to spin up the workstation. I need to go back and adjust my quota to do this test, which I did after I got this error. So at least I know what's happening there, right? Where did that look? Another piece, let's show something a little more successful here. So if I'm in this package, right? Oh, I went to the wrong place.
Yeah, you got to click on the green. There you go.
There we go. And I can go and see, yep, it ran. Yes, it ran with the proper commands that I'm looking for. Smoke test successful. In some cases, there we go. It'll actually show the video and say, yeah, this application showed up. It's going to pop up on the screen. It's considered successful.
Yeah, what's
So
important here, Jack, too, is right when you did that convert to FlexApp 1, you could pick all of your applications that we've onboarded, right? The
yes,
onboarding is the important piece for us, right? When we talk about orchestration and automation,
I see that.
it's really about the fact that we're going to take every artifact sitting in Config Manager or whatever file share you point us to, and we're going to go through that same onboarding process that's completely unattended. Jack didn't have to do anything during the onboarding process. It's actually going through, taking the silent installation instructions, installing it and executing it in a known good environment. And then that way you get that screen that Jack showed with all the entry points, right? These are the 2 executables in this particular application. And from there, we will execute those entry points, and you're able to do it for every single application. And then once we've converted them to FlexApp 1 packages, it automatically kicks off another parallel process that will test the new FlexApp package against your new desired build that you're pointing to, and allow you to actually pull in that build and test it against your contextually relevant build.
Yeah.
So it's great in the sense that you're able to do things in mass, and you're able to do it without bodies. You're able to do it using compute. And then as the new versions come out of this 7-zip v4, Jack quickly flashed up patch 360, but we're out there notifying you that there's a new version of your application available. Would you like to kick off the process to onboard it, convert it, and get it ready and validated for deployment? So now it's not just about taking your legacy debt, it's about maintenance and ongoing version control. This is all done on day 0 of the new release of the patch, right? Or the new release of the application. So you're not waiting that 28 days or 45 days or whatever your SLA might be to get that new version out the door. Since it's already validated and sitting inside your Remo platform, you can say, let's go live with it, right? And here you're able to kind of choose from 25,000 plus installers and figure out what are the right applications for you. And you can basically start FlexApping things at a rate that you never thought possible, right? So it makes it easier for you to understand that once you've committed to 1 or 2 or 3 of these technologies and strategies with a priority A, best case scenario, B, local install if it doesn't work, or C, I'm just going to have to bake it into my image, fine. We'll at least give you the data through automation to tell you how to build those images and what the best way to deploy those applications are.
You're definitely going to have to give me access to patch 360 because that is intriguing.
Patch 360 is pretty fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
That's awesome. And the other thing that we like is that you guys are actually Switzerland, and you support, in a way, and that's my words, right? You support, at least 4 different technologies out there. How many? Is it 4 different?
It is 4. Yeah.
So MSIX, AppV, Liquidware, and we'll leave the other one unsaid, but because we feel like we're the leader. So, but
it's Intune Win. Intune Win doesn't compete with you. It's fine.
No, but
Yeah.
Omnis is in there too. So, what I like really about this is that I can say, as a marketer, I can say all day long that I think that FlexApp's the best, that we have the most innovation and blah 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 blah, right? And the most compatibility, and the highest compatibility rate, and the easiest to package, and all that. But when you have something at your fingertips to be able to test and prove different technologies, that's not me saying it. That's someone else looking at it, and that's what you guys are doing in my mind. Is you're helping empower enterprises to check out all these technologies at a glance, and to smoke test them and bake them off and look for the best one for them.
Yeah.
And the neat thing about our FlexApp 1 integration with you, and it's not just FlexApp 1 but FlexApp Core, is that you actually have the tools right at your fingertips when you're looking at Remo 3, that you can package up something with everything needed there, because you guys have had integration with our packaging console, and then you can test it right there without necessarily having even to get a license for FlexApp to do that. It'll give you the sample license. You'll be able to test the sample package, and you'll be able to do end-to-end testing, stack it up against the other things that are in the industry, and develop your own app strategy. Hey, what has the most compatibility out there? And that's why I get excited about Remo 3, is because the compatibility that you guys have against different technologies. And the other thing that I love is that you guys have an end-to-end story. You can not only to package up a FlexApp, but because we have that FlexApp 1 format, you can actually roll it out to Intune. You
Intune.
can
I
go all the
dump
way
it
through
right there.
into production without even coming back over to our console if you wanted to. Now, if you wanted to come over there with FlexApp Core and deploy those that way, you have a lot of benefits in there with Profile Unity and the integration. So I don't want to undervalue that approach, but you could truly test a package end to end. And when you're testing a package, and we talk about FlexApp One, we talk about FlexApp Core, you guys, you're packaging it up, and what's the exciting thing, and we realized a couple of months ago, is we're giving you both outputs. So once you've tested FlexApp One, the way that you guys can, you can safely assume that the FlexApp Core package that you can deploy with Profile Unity also has the same result, and it's the same compatibility, and you can deploy it by us through the power of through.
And remember, the reason why you want to use that technology, even with something like Intune, is there's no installs anymore. There's no uninstalls anymore.
Yeah.
There's no problem with rolling back an application to an older version and running into a file that's sitting there and you can't install because it's got something existing that didn't get removed. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's a containerized, portable solution where you're delivering an app and you're removing an app and it's like it was never there. So it's a big upgrade from the traditional MSI installs. So.
And the thing is, to your point, Jason, it's all based in fact. It's based in data, right? Because like you saw, you could pick all three of those and have let's say you have 1,000 applications, pick MSIX and have it run through the automated pipeline. You know how much it would cost to have an outsourcer come in and package 1,000 MSIX apps for you, and only have a 60% success rate? That's not a great outcome. Use Omnissa, use FlexApp One, and then look at all three and compare them side by side, because you've used automation, you haven't used bodies. You get the data in a matter of a day, right? As opposed to months and months of work to figure out what's the right format for you, and then make the decisions, right? So, and like I said, some of it will be heterogeneous. Some of it will be, these will go as Omnissa apps, but my primary application is FlexApp One. And then if it's worst case scenario, we'll Intune WinWrap it. I've seen that happen across many of the enterprises that we're working with, but it's giving them the data and the pie charts to say you have a 78% success rate here, you have a 97% success rate here, and choose. I mean, is that delta of 20% worth the extra fee for buying a new app format? Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, just to expand on that point, there's a lot of hidden costs, not only for the labor to do the testing and everything, but there's a time factor, and being able to do something in days or a week or two versus months that can hold up a whole program. That's the key, really. You do it once, then you just have to update the apps. And what I've seen in the industry is there's a lot of commercial custom apps from a commercial company, but they're changing weekly, monthly basis, legacy old apps that need to be constantly tested, and leveraging profile personas from Liquidware, combining with the automated lifecycle management. Once these systems are set up the first time, the extra incremental effort is a lot less once it's already plugged in, set up, and configured. So the return on investment is consistently going down. Total cost of ownership is always going down, but it also gives the company, the organizations, a lot more leeway to be nimble, faster to execute. And as was talked about before about dynamic assembly, the new modern management way to go is to have a very thin or a marketplace image from your favorite hardware vendor, whether it's going to be server virtualization, desktop virtualization, the cloud, multi-session, and layering everything on top of that with both technologies. That's the key. So you don't have to worry about constantly updating your gold image. That's old school. Now it's really about the app, the security of the app, layering everything on quickly, and being able to adjust and not having to do all the same labor every single time. That's why everybody has a time. That's why everybody has an issue going with these Microsoft life cycles, because they never really modernize what they did. And that's the speed or the barriers for deployment always comes down to the apps.
And you do have a spike, a workload whenever you go through these transitions to Windows 11 or anything. But I wanted to add something to what you said too, is that you may have a spike and then you settle in after you get your apps deployed and modernized. But then along comes later this year, I think Microsoft's going to say Windows 12. We're not even on Windows 11 yet. I'm pretty sure it's going to be announced this year, right? And then you think about, well, something just happened to my platform provider and they have 2x'd my costs. Now I need to look around the market and see what's available. And those are another chance to have that app strategy and that's the transformation we're going through in the industry right now. A lot of them looking around and there's going to be that next thing and there's going to be that next thing. So I know at Liquidware and you guys at Remo 3 too, you give them an ongoing solution to no matter what's around the corner to be able to keep this embedded, and you're going to have app updates. FlexApp, for example, is one of the only leaders in the market that has an update provision in it. You can actually crack open the package, modify it, and then deploy it again. And that's not true for all the players out there. And then you guys at Remo 3 can smoke test and validate at any time, right? For any platform coming up or any OS coming up.
Jack, I see you already emailed Josh. I just got a request for patch 360 token for you.
I don't wait. I'm right on it.
So funny.
Right. Got the license and demo that too.
There
See if we can turn that around in 3 minutes.
Already got it. But that ongoing change management that you just brought up, Jason, and that Michael kind of laid the foundation for, it's a real thing, right? Like, I mean, if you're able to go through, and again, this goes back to the crux of it. Linear legacy processes can't keep up anymore. It was one thing when back in the app DNA days where I'm like, hey, you got XP and you're moving to Windows 7 and you have deprecated 16-bit components and now you have to support 64-bit components. That was really flippin' easy to be able to go in there and say, I'm going to solve this problem because it's a linear thing. With the pace of change that's happening now, the cumulative update, the feature releases, the new versions of applications that are coming out on a regular basis, unless you update and educate and this is the perfect time to do it while you're in this exploratory phase, to say, can we move away from linear legacy to more of an enterprise DevOps CI/CD pipeline that's really around getting the latest version, automating it through the onboarding, automating it through the packaging, automating it through the validation, and automating it back to delivery, so that you can have that going on day zero anytime a change is introduced into the environment. That's the story of the future of IT enterprise desktop management. And until we get to the point where we can educate folks that there's better tooling, there's better processes, CI/CD works. It's tried and true in the world of software development. All we have to do is retrofit something that's lessons learned into enterprise change enablement and change management. And if you bring tooling around automation and technology that allows portability and flexibility around dynamic assembly and security, boy, have you got yourself a great process around adopting change, but more importantly, doing it in a way that keeps your users happy and keeps them productive while minimizing the risk of disruption and failure.
That's a great summary. Yeah.
We could go for hours, and I haven't even warmed up yet myself. So I mean, it's just amazing how together we can really simplify and optimize the application lifecycle management. And I just think that, like I said, we haven't even scratched the surface. There is so much there that we can do together. So I really encourage everybody to take a reach out to us and let us bring the teams together and give you the consultation and see if we can help each other. So in your next phase.
That's great. Ray, you may have a link to pop into the window for FlexApp 1 if I don't spring that on you here at the last minute to test FlexApp 1. We have 9 packages out there anyone can test, and they can download them and double click on them on a Windows machine. You may get a security flag that you want to enable it. Other than that, it's going to launch, and you'll be able to test a package that's already packaged up for you. And you saw that Remo 3 also has trial available, right, Samit?
We do. We absolutely do. So you can go to the marketplace offering or go to the website. And if you're a partner, you feel free to nominate a customer and get a free trial along with a certain number of applications that you can automate through the pipeline. We can deploy it inside your tenant, or we can host it in ours. So there's multiple ways to skin this cat, but ultimately we definitely want more hands and more eyes on the software, because as with any software, I'm sure there are gaps and things we haven't thought about, and we want that feedback to say, wouldn't it be great if?
Yeah. And in minutes, you can download a FlexApp One package console as well. And you can import those packages that we have as samples and look inside them and play with them and re-save them and then rerun them. So you can do that at any time as well. That's a real big deal, being able to download the packager and just get going in seconds without anything, no licensing, just go. And then after that, we'll figure out how to get you going.
As for us, those next steps, if you needed that, to David's point, though, you can reach us at info@liquidware.com. And what's your default email, guys, at Remo3?
sales@remo3.com. I'm guessing.
Nah, that'll work. I could use sales too. So sales@either1.com is going to get you a question answered just like that, and we'll get you demoware. With that, I want to turn it back over to Ray. I'd like to thank the panel, though. Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, great session for sure. Thank you all for joining. We'll make sure that some of those links that we talked about and threw in the chat here for you are in the follow-up email, along with a link to the recording from today's session. So thank you to everyone who participated by giving us your questions and comments, whether it was your favorite giveaways or asking us some questions about that you have about app strategy and our different solutions. So we appreciate that. Thank you to all of our panelists, both at Liquidware and Remo3. And we look forward to hosting you guys again for another session in the future. So thank you all.
Thank you,
everybody.
Stay warm. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jack, Samit, Michael.
Thanks,
Ray,
guys. This was
Jason.
great.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
See you guys.